and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. It's the end of the year, everybody! And wow, we're coming up on the year 2020. You ever just stop and think about the fact that we're living in the future? Like, just ponder the last few years and reflect on the fact that this is the future.
The future hasn't been kind to you, has it?
No, it has not! And 2019 has had its ups and downs. A lot of downs. For one thing, my schedule slippage was an interesting issue. At the beginning of the year, things went fine. Then it just slipped and vanished altogether by July, so that I actually had to miss an episode this year. Namely, condensing the retrospective down to 3 parts instead of 4. Expect an extra Comic Book Quickies episode soon to compensate for that. Maybe. Probably not, given my luck. But by the end of the year, we seem to have mostly gotten back on track. Sure, I had to push an episode back by a week so 2 episodes premiered at once, but I had my wisdom teeth pulled, and I think that's as good an excuse as any. And then the Last Jedi review from last week wasn't already at 4 p.m. on Monday, but the first part was. What I'm saying is that at least I'm missing the deadlines because of good reasons, and not because I'm still reeling from the previous week's lateness. It's a good distinction. As I mentioned, we had ourselves a big ol' retrospective on Cassandra Cain, the, in my humble opinion, best Batgirl DC ever had. The nice thing about these retrospectives is that they really help reinvigorate my love for this medium and the universes they inhabit. So much history and intriguing storytelling that I've really come to love. Pity that I've actually fallen really far behind on current comics. Like, I'm up to a year or 2 now behind on what's actually happening anymore. Expect me to give a lot of shrugs in the future for whenever people ask me my opinions about things. But then again, I've been kind of busy, as you may have noticed. While I may have missed an episode, it's not like I'm lacking for reviews I've made this year. I finally got to visit Marvel's new universe with its bizarre Kickers Incorporated concept, did my first ever Alan Moore review thanks to a Patreon-sponsored episode, and even finally looked at another Image comic that continues to this day with Savage Dragon. We even had to say a fond farewell to a few things that I had done before. The A-Team comics. Mr. T will return though, rest assured. The Tandy Computer Whiz Kids, who will also return because fans pointed out the Superman issue they cameoed in. And the first season of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, which will also probably return because for some reason people want me to review JoJo, and they're willing to pay me to do it. On that note, Patreon-sponsored episodes were all over the place, from covering 2 episodes of Pokemon to a few horror manga like Hellstar Ramina and Frankenfran. And on the TV and movie front, I also got to review Tremors and that Phineas and Ferb 2-parter where they team up with Marvel heroes, both of which were hilarious, as were the episodes, which you should go rewatch. Speaking of movies, we had Movie Comic Adaptation Month, where we looked at 5 movies that had been adapted into comics. With mixed results. Something like Catwoman faring better in the medium she was created for, while Street Fighter the movie the comic was noticeably worse. What's funny though is that the last of that month, the Superman 4 review, was not the only time I took another look at Superman 4 this year, since I was blessed with not 1, but 2 crossovers with Alison Pregler over at Movie Nights. Also Megaforce. Hell, it wasn't the only crossover I had either, as Suede has begun redoing his Pokemon movie reviews, and I joined him in looking at Pokemon the first movie yet again. And despite the soundtrack being replaced with pop songs, it was still better music than what they had in those 2 Pokemon episodes I reviewed. On the topic of reuniting with alumni of a certain website I used to be on, I got to be at a mansion party at Scarsdale Manor where all sorts of horrible shenanigans occurred. It was amazing to see so many of my friends again. Like 24 of us were there. Although now I wonder what happened to all the people who were invited but didn't come.
A party in a mansion? Riches and adventure? No, I'm gonna be too busy in 2019. That's when it all happens. That final season of Game of Thrones come out and everyone's gonna love that.
Wow, plane tickets to a mansion party? Fun and riches? Wow, I am so down for that. Wait a minute, why does that say 2 Ashens on it?
Well, in comic books, Jonathan Hickman relaunches the X-Men in a way that totally makes sense, and Brian Bendis goes to DC to write the greatest Superman stories of all time.
Huh, a mansion party with adventures and riches? That seems like it'd be fun, even if I don't actually get any... Wait, what's this here about painting portraits of everyone who attends?
Meanwhile, Jared Leto will continue to be the newest and greatest Joker. And finally, the last Star Wars movie will be coming out and the internet will become a place of love and inclusion because of it. Or, I could start taking my antipsychotic meds. Nah.
And how convenient that such an event should happen to be for sale right now, either in digital form over at Bandcamp, or in this physical CD you can order off of our Kunaki page. Hint, hint, wink, wink, buy it and get 25 minutes of bloopers and outtakes of the totally real thing that happened. Am I in character right now? Well, definitely out of character. I had tax problems this year, and I suspect next year too, sadly, but was able to solve them thanks to the generous support of you, the viewers, after I spent 4 days doing a Pokemon Yellow fully randomized Nuzlocke, where every Pokemon type was altered. If need be, I will of course let you all know if we end up doing another tax stream this year, and perhaps Turbro Tax, the fighting type Slowbro, will fly once again. Literally, it could fly. On the subject of live streams, after finishing up the Pokemon White randomized Nuzlocke, I got to play a Zelda game for the very first time this year with the original Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening. Link did eventually awaken, presumably anyway, because I was actually playing as Canil, Gardener of Hyrule, who set about clearing away all the overgrowth on this island. And hey, I also started another randomized Pokemon Nuzlocke with Heart Gold this time. That got interrupted in October by playing the first Dead Space. Canil would have been no help there though. Fighting weird alien mutations in space required Isaac Clarke and his drunken stomping. We'll be getting back to that one once Heart Gold is finished up. But wait! Weren't we supposed to be talking about Atop the Fourth Wall here? Didn't we have ourselves something new to talk about in October? Perhaps something that had such sights to show us? And said sights weren't really that impressive. Indeed, this October I got to look at Hellraiser comics. And they were all kind of meh. A few good ideas here and there, but just not really that great. Still, it was great to finally have a Halloween season where nothing at all happened. Did something happen? Oh, right! I got cats this year! Look at them! Look at my kitties! Starfire and Chieri. They're adorable and you must love them. I just let them roam around when I'm recording. And it's so great that I finally have cats! I've always had cats. Oh, and speaking of horror, something really weird happened this year as I became famous and looked at the terrible, terrible anthology film Gallery of Horror. The real horror being Fat Grandma. Whoever she is. Less horrific was the Contest of Champions, which should have gotten back on track this year, but unfortunately some kind of kerfuffle involving two competitors forced it to be delayed quite a bit, at least from this universe's perspective. I met the Blue Knight of Titan, who from his universe's perspective, not much time has passed at all. Still, at this rate, the contest is gonna be over in like 5 years. So glad I signed up for this. I hear there's gonna be a broadcast after this episode is done with at least. From doing a brief retrospective on comic book swimsuit issues, to revisiting the nightmare of the California Raisins, and then to the different kind of nightmare that is Marvel's Trouble, it's been a bit of a year. So time for the annual lazy self-indulgence look back at my own show's history. Now, some of you might be thinking, don't you have a system for these year-end lists? You alternate them, so it's missed opportunities, screw-ups, and then whatever random topic you can come up with. Others of you don't care at all and just want me to get to the damn list already. Yeah, normally that is the system, and in fact I made the lack of following that system number 15 in my last screw-ups list, but I was perusing through my notes for screw-ups I had made, and honestly there weren't a lot there that interested me enough in talking about again. A few, yeah, but not enough to justify a top 15 on them. Sure, I'll get to them eventually, but I think I want to wait a bit longer to accrue more mistakes. I love how I just assume I'm gonna be an utter screw-up. Why do people watch me when I've been able to put together multiple lists detailing how bad I am at my job? Hell, I have considered scrapping the list entirely and just doing a regular review. But the thing is, I do like to have some kind of year-end video where I talk about everything that happened for the last 12 months. The beginning of a new year is a cleansing period. Sure, there's nothing actually different about it, but psychologically, there's just a feeling of shaking off what happened before and granting us a new energy to face what's coming next. Allow us to reflect on our successes and failures and think how we've got a fresh start. And it feels bad to just stick that into a review of, say, Batman Aliens. Speaking of, next week, second issue of Batman Aliens. I don't know, maybe I'll change my mind about that next year and just do a review then. But for now, we've got ourselves another list that works. And this year, I've decided we're gonna look back at the evil plans featured in some of the terrible comics I've reviewed and rank the dumbest of them. So sit back and be smug about how you, my friends, are not as stupid as the villains I'm talking about today. This is the top 15 dumbest evil plans of Atop the Fourth Wall.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a birdie hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazon and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
Number 15, Do Nothing! From March of the Titans Part 4, The Titans number 26 to 50. Ah yes, March of the Titans, my first big retrospective from several years ago. So let me set the stage for this evil plan. The Titans have had a bunch of metahuman kids show up on their doorstep fleeing the DEO, the Department of Extranormal Operations, the place that usually deals with metahuman stuff in the DC universe. Its director, a dude named Mr. Bones, who is literally a skeleton, because I guess when you're just a skeleton walking around, there's no point in being coy about it, is of course mad about the kids leaving, because he wanted them for reasons. Yeah, that's never explained. A theme with this one, as we'll see. The kids were fleeing for other reasons that are never gotten into, but the point is, Nightwing is pissed and won't let the DEO just take them away. So he blackmails Director Bones into letting the kids stay with them by threatening to reveal to the world that he used to be a supervillain. Because I guess the world at large knows there's a skeleton named Mr. Bones in charge of this place and didn't connect the dots that it might be the same one running around with a cyanide touch. The DC universe is not very observant. Anyway, Bones agrees and Nightwing heads off, but Bones says they're gonna make sure that the kids come back to them by making them want to come back. And what is his plan? Well, it's so evil and secret and nefarious that we never find out what the hell it is. Seriously! Now, you might be thinking, wait, then why is this on the list of dumbest plans if we don't even know what it was? Well, that's the thing. It's so ineffective and so not ever explained to us that I'm not even sure if he had a plan. The kids are eventually forced back there, but not through any actions by Director Bones. There's no manipulation, no coercion, nothing sinister about any of it. You ended the issue on a major cliffhanger saying, "My evil plan will solve everything." And then there isn't an evil plan! It's just pretend there's one and hope the audience doesn't remember! And it's not like some master stratagem that eventually gets the kids to want to come back. They really have no choice in the matter! It says something when you're not sure if the villain was just saying something because it was Friday and he wanted to get an early start on the weekend. The lack of any actual explanation of what it was supposed to be is why it's at the top of the list. But still, this one's a more meta-dumb than actively stupid on the part of the character. But rest assured, the rest of this list has people who had dumb plans of their own choice. Yay. Number 14, Card Game World Domination from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Chapter 1. This one's near the top of the list because it's kind of a plan that would sort of work in-universe given what we know about the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just that it still seems patently silly, and frankly, even in-universe, I suspect the characters would kind of stare at them in confusion. As a reminder, for those who don't recall this, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a series about a children's trading card game that most people on Earth play, to the point where there are schools designed specifically to teach the best ways to play. At this particular school, Duel Academy, named by a panicked marketing director who got drunk the night before he was supposed to come up with suggestions for said name, a trainee teacher teacher is working to become an accredited teacher at the school by having 50 wins in the game under his belt. He wins by cheating, but what's more important here is his diabolical scheme. Once he becomes a teacher, he will work his way up the school ranks and send forth duelists who will only answer to him. With the respect of his teaching position and an army of duelists, he will dominate the dueling world! And presumably the entire world, given how prevalent dueling is in this society. It's a good thing this school isn't owned by a rich asshole who would happily fire me and humiliate me in front of the entire dueling world just out of spite. I said in the episode that I could kind of buy this plan working in the world of Yu-Gi-Oh!, but honestly, no. He already relies upon cheating to win his duels, and said cheating would instantly be undone by simply not playing the game with the expensive hologram generators, but there's no particular reason given why any of these kids would be loyal to him, especially when they leave the academy. A lot of kids graduate Duel Academy in the show while gaining corporate sponsorship for professional dueling. Unless you're paying these kids more than Cuba Cola would grant them, you're probably out of luck. And even that assumes the good students would work for him. Considering this guy needs to cheat in order to win, he's not going to be teaching anything useful to kids, so most of his minions would be second-rate anyway and get their asses kicked out there. Sorry, you skunk-haired idiot. Your plan is stupid, even though given everything else we've seen in Yu-Gi-Oh!, it might work. Until a dueling monkey came along. Man, this show was weird and I love it. Number 13. I hate flesh. That's why I'm keeping flesh around. Also, they're spiders. From Future's End. So here's a stupid villain plan that is successful, but only because it's the little details that are stupid rather than the broad concept. The overall idea is robot apocalypse. Army of robots, humanity is slaughtered, Skynet controls everything. However, it's not just robots involved here. Actually, I say that, but I don't actually think there are any full-on robots here, which is kind of the point. Brother Eye, the artificial intelligence developed by Batman, and in this story, Mr. Terrific as well, utilizes nanotechnology to assimilate people and convert them into cyborgs under its control. All well and good there, except, as revealed by an assimilated Frankenstein, Brother Eye hates organic bits and flesh. So why the hell is it assimilating people? Oh, it gets better than that, because the assimilation becomes impractical in its own universe. You've got Superman, strongest being on the planet, smallest of things that can take him down, but what's the first thing you do when you assimilate him? Chop him in half and shove his body onto robot spider legs. You replaced his perfectly fine legs with something that's less structurally sound and weaker than the thing he had before. And all this for a guy who can fly. And before you think, well, maybe all that technology is necessary to control someone, and they needed to put it somewhere. Nope, this is revealed to be completely unnecessary. Because of convoluted events involving time travel, because my Skynet joke was on the nose and this whole thing is a ripoff of the Terminator, Power Girl gets controlled by Brother Eye, and her entire body is intact. All that's different is her scalp apparently got peeled back to insert robot control stuff in her brain, but that's it. Even if you do go with the whole grr, flesh is bad, robots better thing, why weaken the forces you have by precariously and unnecessarily shoving their torsos onto what is essentially a microphone stand? Oh, but it gets even better, because again, it hates flesh so much, we've got to take parts of one person and shove them onto another. Fuse Black Canary's face into Frankenstein's chest for no reason. Cut Batgirl in half and stick her torso onto the bat signal! If the world is eventually taken over by machines, let's hope at least that our mechanical overlords will have the good sense to not just cut off a leg and glue it onto a cell phone. I feel like the old evil overlord list from back in the day needs a new entry. Don't turn people into spiders. It never works. Number 12. Racketeering can't melt through steel beams. From Marvel Comics number 1. The Human Torch, who isn't actually human, has been captured by a criminal and racketeer named Sardo. Now, our robotic Human Torch is pretty damn powerful. Extreme heat and flames as soon as he's exposed to even the slightest bit of air. Hell, he escaped from a cement prison because of a slow leak of air that caused a friggin' explosion. So naturally, criminal mastermind Sardo, who even has his own laboratory for doing science-y crimes, I guess, decides that the Human Torch will be great for extorting money out of a warehouse holding steel beams. Yeah, Sardo just goes to the warehouse owner and says if they don't get paid, their warehouse will burn down. I know when I have a powerful robot that can set anything on fire, my first inclination is to use it for something that a pile of oily rags and a match can accomplish. And clearly this is a one-time deal. The Human Torch has intelligence, and of course flees as soon as he's let loose in the warehouse. What did Sardo expect it to do? Just hope that the Torch would go back in the tube they constructed to transport him? Hell, they actually spent extra money and resources to do this. And this is such a wasteful and stupid plan to use a robot like this that it completely backfires by the Human Torch going back to this guy's house and getting him killed. My favorite part of this whole thing is that Sardo's henchman points out only one problem with his scheme: that steel beams don't melt. Not that the warehouse itself will be destroyed, or that they're using a robot to do this when a lighter would do the job. No. Gotta worry about the melting point of steel. Clearly, Sardo is as wise about hiring goons as he is coming up with plans. Number 11. Can't see the Gizmo Duck suit from the trees. From Darkwing Duck number 1 to 4. The Duck Knight returns. So Taurus Bulba has been working for a year or two now to slowly take over St. Canard, creating this business called Quackworks that not only supplies basically everything in the city, from nail clippers to lima beans, but also has created a large force of robots that he utilizes to stop all crime within the city. He has effectively taken over the place. Hell, even Darkwing Duck has retired thanks to the crime bots being so good at their job. Mind control has even been employed here. It's truly one of the most successful villain plots not only in Darkwing Duck, but in superhero comics overall. So it's really friggin' bizarre when it's revealed that the only reason he did all of it was to get his hands on the Gizmo Duck armor. It's like staging a military invasion of a large city because you want to pull some weeds in your front yard. You're kinda taking overkill to a whole new level. I mean, at this point, what good is the armor? You are basically all-powerful already! You could have the people under your sway just build you a new one anyway that's better! The problem with this one is not the plan itself. The plan itself is fine. It's the goal! Taurus Bulba. He's like Lex Luthor if he was obsessed with stealing Superman's cape. Number 10. Double your pleasure, double your Hitler. From Superman at Earth's End. So here's a villain plan not made by the villains of this story, but from the backstory. It's a post-apocalyptic world where chicken robots fly through the sky and a bearded idiot lectures people about the evils of guns while shooting the biggest gun that he can find, while also punching the aforementioned robots in the stomach and declaring himself to be a man. However, as the apocalypse was occurring, some scientists decided to do a bit of cloning. And as Spider-Man will tell you, cloning always makes your story better. However, these scientists who worked at Wayne Laboratories decided that there was one person they needed to clone above all else. Someone who definitely deserved to be alive again over Mr. Rogers, children with terminal conditions, or even loved ones of theirs. Hitler! Oh, but not just one Hitler. I mean, they're like Pringles. You can't stop at one. Let's make 2 clones of Hitler. Twinlers, if you will. And what was their plan? Well, we never learn it. We never know the reason why they made twin clones of Hitler. This is worse than Mr. Bones evidently having no plan, because you can at least pretend that maybe he had a plan, but it wasn't actually necessary to implement. Or maybe he was playing 5-dimensional chess and somehow manipulated everything to get what they wanted in the end. But this? There is no plan where clone Hitler is a good thing to do. Hell, it has to be an evil plan, because what the hell else do you do with a clone of Hitler, but something bad and probably Nazi related? The best you could argue is that you could be cloning him because you want to kick him in the dick or something, but then why make 2 of them? Is the cloning process taking a really long time, so you want to make sure you can beat up one and have another one on standby for stabbing? Twin clones of Hitler. We may not have known their full plan, but it was never going to be a good one.